Hello, everybody. I'm outside, as you can see, and I will not be able to read the chat as ooh, that zooms out far. I didn't even know it went out that far. I'm trying to get like the table. There you go. And I had this thing, right? And I was like, oh, well, let me bring it outside. Well, the picnic table is the thing, and I have the little tripod thing, right? So, um, oof. Yeah, this might be a little dangerous. I don't even know if you can still see, but I guess we're just gonna go for it. So the full moon in Virgo is now last night, this morning. Saturn's like transiting into Pisces or whatever. And this morning, I just like felt like coming outside. I like kind of just woke up, low key. Um, and I got ready. I'm gonna be going with my mother. But I thought, until then, because it might take her a minute, because she was in the bed, I was in the bed. Temperance. Temperance and the Page of Cups. I was watching a few astrology videos yesterday, and people were talking about how reality is about to get real weird because of Saturn's transit through Pisces and eventual conjunction with Neptune, and how like our concept of reality might change or something like that. And I think somebody, I didn't watch the breakdown video, but somebody was talking about other things that have happened while Saturn has been in Pisces or whatever. Um, and it kind of sort of read like, seemed like, feels like they were also talking about spiritual discipline because Pisces spiritual, Saturn discipline. But I almost wonder if there isn't a tie or connection in between like spiritual discipline and our concept of reality. As in like what all of the lessons and stuff might afford us the opportunity to experience. Question mark. Nine of Cups at the bottom of the deck. So Nine of Cups is at the bottom of the deck, and then there's Temperance, and then it didn't seem windy today. I don't even know if you can see these, but it's like the 10th cup is on its way. We're at the 9. Temperance is bringing in, or the page is arriving with the 10th. She's never seemed so misleading, question mark. She has the appearance of a child, but for some reason, and again, I don't even know if you can see this because I can't see my phone. It's like the rings on her hand make her seem a lot older than she actually is. So because of that, it is a little like angels in disguise slash blessings in disguise. Another reason why I mentioned the changing realities and spiritual discipline is because of how the water is moving in between these two cups in the presence of the angel. I ain't trying to lose any cards. I did. I brought out a deck where I was like, I wouldn't mind. Like, I don't prefer it, but I wouldn't mind if I did lose a card or two because I was coming out here with the Mystic Mondays and some cards are missing. I don't know where they went. If a lawnmower ate them. But anyway. What am I looking at? I want to do Sun in Pisces, Moon in Virgo, and then 3 cards for Saturn. So Sun in Pisces. It is getting chilly. I didn't think to bring gloves, but I can't shuffle with the gloves that I have. Woo! Not the Nine of Swords! The sun is like coming out and it's warming my hands. Sun in Pisces is the Hermit, the Ten of Wands, and the Nine of Swords. It's interesting that Sun in Pisces is the Hermit because Hermit is traditionally associated with the sign of Virgo, where the moon is. The Hermit, this honestly, it feels like, especially these two, it feels like getting an answer to getting a solution to a problem in a dream, and it's like it's a significant one because of the Nine of Swords. It feels like the Nine of Swords is an energy of us having exhausted so many options, or us having done everything that we think we can think to do, but with the person seeing the castle in the distance in this Ten of Wands, I don't even know if it's like a series of dreams. Since it sort of illustrates a coming arrival at a destination. The arrival at the destination and the Ten of Wands is just the first part, because he has to do whatever he's going to do with all those wands, right? The first part might have been acquiring all of the wands. The second part is making the trip and the journey. The third part is like doing whatever you're going to do with those wands. With the Hermit here, it might not have necessarily been. It feels like the presence of the Hermit means that it's like it's a deeper issue, or that it has roots somewhere. Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Let's go. Um, and in this card, I've never noticed this. Wait, is that on all the cards? No, it's not. It's on some of them, though. Actually, the only card it's not on is this Ace of Pentacles. Oh, that was my mom. Hold up. I hope those cards don't blow away. Alright. So I got some at 11. Well, she's getting up at 11. Don't mean that we're going to be leaving at 11. So. Whew. Okay. I've just noticed, I believe I've just noticed for the first time, because I was looking to see if any of the swords pierce the person, because that's something that I look at in the Nine of Swords. None of them are in this card. She's lying too low. Or lying low enough that she doesn't get pierced. And then I'm looking by her foot and I see that me. It looks like ME in red. And then I noticed it on the Hermit and it's like this me. But it's also not as clearly legible in the Ten of Wands, but it's like down there. I can't necessarily make it out, but I see the red text, so I assume that it's me. Or it's like M2 or something. It's written as me. I'm assuming that it's me in this Ten of Wands, but it might not be. And also, again, like, today this is reading as the space of dreams. Like, this is something that's being done in dream. It's a journey. It's a revelation of things that are being done in dreams. Maybe these wands can just represent like information from dreams as well. right? And maybe the castle is the waking mind. So like this is our journey. LOL, this is our journey through the subconscious. And Sun in Pisces, Pisces the subconscious. If that castle is the border between the waking and sleep, it makes sense. With Pisces being the sometimes not seen and the sun being there, trying to make it seen, but it's like more light won't necessarily make something seen. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how bright it is, it's not going to help us see the wind. Doesn't mean it's not there. We can feel it, we know it's there. And so it's almost like instead of the sun playing a role of illumination to get us to see something, it has to do something else. And it's making me think, and my brain goes Scorpio, but it's making me think of like deep sea creatures, because or deep sea creatures that live in the absence of light, right? Like the sun's light doesn't penetrate that deep, but life still finds a way to thrive. Like there's still life there. So much of life everywhere else is based on this plant converting sunlight into food, and this animal eating the plant, and then other animals eating the animals that eat the plants, right? Oh gosh. Wow, the wind said, okay, we get it. Move on. Goodness. Fortunately, they didn't go too far. I don't know if y'all can. Oh, I can get up and see if you can see these. This might help them from blowing away too. This picnic table was such a good idea. Yeah, and you can see them. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Nice. So there's this meanie me. And again, it feels like it's playing on that deeper, more subconscious thing with the Ten of Wands. It's like in the dream, in the realm of dream, in the realm of subtlety. So it's beyond dream. And I extend it to subtlety because it could be you living your life and all of a sudden you get a thought. Your intuition tells you something, you notice something, somebody says something. It's like it extends to the realm of synchronicity and intuition and downloads and stuff like that. But it's like you're gathering all of it subconsciously. And the closer you get to that castle, the closer it gets to your conscious mind. And so then it's like, okay, well, once you get all the information, once you like gather all the information, or once you bring it into a form or into a place where you can more consciously interact with the information rather than it sort of being and remaining abstract, how do you assemble it to like get it to apply in life, like in your life, in the real world? And it's interesting, it reminds me of a conversation of like how if there is a certain piece of equipment that you have to produce a certain part, but that equipment goes down, and then like you have other sort of pieces of equipment, how can you make the part with that other equipment? And it's like you have a procedure, it's standardized, you can like mass produce under that original sort of layout, but if something goes wrong, or if it goes down for maintenance, or if it breaks down and you can't replace it but you have something else, how do you translate the process to keep producing the part? And when I say translate, it makes me think of DNA translation or gene translation or whatever, in how there are like proteins and other things, everything encoded in our DNA, and then how that, it's like how the code turns into the protein, right? So first you copy the part of the code that you want, that's the transcription, and then you run that transcript through a reader that translate DNA code to amino acids, and then you assemble, like, the protein is an assembled amino acid, basically, an assembled chain of amino acids. Not to get too Sagittarius, but Temperance came out earlier. All right, the moon, 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 in Virgo. Oh, oop, oop, oop. No, that's too many. Five of Swords was at the top. Five of Swords is interesting. It feels like a little bit of maybe mental overwork. I love, well, not just, well, it might be, I don't want to say just because I'm a Pisces, but I am a Pisces, but I still love the Pisces Virgo axis. Maybe it's because I'm a Pisces and I love Virgos. Um, but it's interesting because Virgo can be so tactile and so physical, so like the assembler of things. So the sun is in Pisces trying to like activate other senses or trying to get us to see the world beyond just sight. But then you have the moon in Virgo. At first it felt kind of contradictory, but I feel like it actually makes sense because the moon is the subtle. And so it's like in the context of the dream, right? It's almost like the moon in Virgo is actually helping us put together all of these subconscious pieces. It's actually helping us to see what the divine, what the universe is communicating in all of these different signs and symbols and synchronicities. It's like the moon is the subtle, the emotional, the watery. Virgo is the assembler or the organizer, the putter together of things. So it's putting together those subtle things. I don't know if Virgo was going to add weight. I don't know if Virgo was going to add enough weight to it to get it to be like dense enough to actually materialize into the physical. It's almost like if faith was a currency based system and it's like you have to have 10 faith to make this dream a reality and you have to have one faith to make this dream a reality. And but like it feels like Saturn and Pisces would be the one, if the moon in Virgo can't add enough weight to make the subtle scene, then Saturn and Pisces will. But it's like Saturn and Pisces does it on the front end of it rather than doing it on the back end like the moon in Virgo would be doing. Because Saturn, at least right now until the sun moves into Aries, because Saturn is in the same sign as the sun. But since it's Pisces, it feels like it's actually like we feel it as more back end, or depending on the depth of, I guess, our intuition and discernment, or depending on where we place ourselves on the scale of um, like conscious and subconscious, or material slash matter and immaterial. It feels like more broadly, more generally, Pisces energy feels more on the back end, but since that's where the sun is, it's like actually front end, if it makes any sense. But that Five of Swords, it's like maybe it's like mental gymnastics. Like, how does this work? How does this come together? Like, how does this make sense? That can, since it's the Five of Swords with the connotation of the Five of Swords, it does border more on overthinking and overanalyzing. Because it's the moon in Virgo, it could be like we get so focused on how these pieces fit that we don't allow them to complete the it's like and trying to see how it all fits, we zoom in closer and closer and closer to the pieces we have. But it's like if you were to take a step back, your brain would fill in the missing pieces, and then you would see what it is. I've been watching a lot of Buzzer lately, and concentration is, I mean, I say what, well, yeah, I have been watching it. It's been on the TV and I've been watching it. And I haven't changed the channel, so that's how I got stuck watching Dora in the mornings before school for like a few months. It was The Nanny at Night and Dora in the Morning, Nickelodeon. Um, but anyway, it's like when you reveal the panels to see more and more of the picture, it's like not only do you have to have the panels revealed, but you also have to like assemble the answer. And if you don't know what concentration is, it's basically, it's a game show where you match prizes. There's like doors from 1 to 25, and then you have wild cards, so that's why it's like odd and not even. And you have to match like which prize is behind which door. And when you make a match, it reveals a piece of the puzzle. The puzzle is a pictogram, question mark. It's like pictures that represent phrases. So like anytime you see a hen, more often than not, the actual word is going to be then. It took me a while. Well, not a while, because the first time I saw it, I didn't get it. But then the person was like then, and I was like, oh, okay. Um, so not only is the pictures, but sometimes there'll be like little red arrows that point to a specific part of the picture, right? So it's like if there was a chicken, I guess this is perfect for this. There was a chicken on one, and so you it could be easy to think like then, but there were arrows pointing to the red wavy thing on top of its head. So it was actually the comb, and the comb might have been like come, like COME. Don't come for me. Anyway, um, and so it's like you assemble the pictures into the actual phrase. And when you're assembling the pictures into the phrase, sometimes like there are letters that you drop, or there are sounds that you kind of sort of mash together. Like there was a C plus, if you've ever been bowling, it was like the lane with the pins on the end, and it was pointing to the lane, and I was like, Clane, like what is that? And it was alley, so it was like Cali, and it ended up being California. But I was like, I didn't get that one. Anyway, 6 of swords at the bottom of the deck saying, yeah, the cards blew off the table, move on. But anyway, I guess that just illustrates that illustrates like how even when we get the pieces all together, it still might acquire some assembly. But it's like if you look at the details too much, or if you try to dive too deep into the specifics, you might miss what it's like generally trying to tell you. It feels like it's in that way the realm of the high priestess sort of trying to communicate something that we don't necessarily have a language to understand or the ability to fully comprehend because of what our experience has been and because of what's coming. It's almost like there may not be an exact match, so they have to do a lot of approximations and rely on the software to get the correct message. We are the software. Or our brains, our hearts are, wherever the intuition is the software. Um, but yeah, with that 5 of swords, it can be like it can tend to go too into the details or too into the how and when and why. Where it's like, if you take a step back, it'd be easier to get it. So, oh, and here it is. So yeah, maybe that's Moon and Virgo. It literally just fell out. Only card. You saw it live. Um, is that it for Moon and Virgo? Bottom of the deck is the 4 of Wands. With the bottom of the deck being the 4 of Wands and the 4 of Wands being a card that traditionally symbolizes like marriage, it does feel like maybe the 5 of Swords is a warning. I don't really like the word warning all the time, but it's just the 5 of Swords is for us to remember the nature. I don't want to say the nature of the beast. To remember the circumstances of that surround the question at hand, right? It's like we're getting subtle, subconscious, dream-like, communicated from the divine answers to like real life physical problems. Things that we think are real life physical problems with the Nine of Swords, but it's actually a lot deeper with the Hermit. They actually extend into the realm of the subtle, which is why we receive the answer in the subtle. So, in that too, with this Five of Swords, it could be like a complete uprooting, right? It's like rather than cutting the weed at the surface, you dig below the surface and like pull it from the root. Ooh, Five of Wands after that Four of Wands. Okay, so Saturn and Pisces. Wrapping this up. It is getting warmer. The sun is really coming in, kind of cooking my back a little bit. Saturn and Pisces is the Queen of Wands. With Temperance at the bottom of the deck. And the Five of Wands behind that Temperance. The Five of Wands that came after the Four of Wands. Maybe this is just... I don't know. I don't think this is Saturn and Pisces. But it's related to Saturn and Pisces. It's the me, me, me. The me, 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 and, or the me, me at least, and the assumed me and the Ten of Wands. This feels like it might be like an individual solution. Some of it might ring true for the collective. Some of it might ring true for your friends or loved ones or people who you talk to. But it's almost like, remember, like this is your path and it works for you, but with the Five of Wands, it might not necessarily work for other people. So it's like allow people the time to get their own answer. And it's just like it's to avoid conflicts and stuff like that, because I guess Saturn is, and then there's the Ace of Wands with the butterfly behind the Queen. Because, you know, Saturn in Pisces can, I guess, it has the potential, or as far as I know, has historically had the potential to bring about religious or spiritual conflict. I personally believe that there are many, 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 many roads and ways to source, and that we pick the way that, or we are led to, guided to the way that most resonates for us. But with all of the subtlety sort of involved, and with us being, you know, human, sometimes we can think that our way is the only way, or sometimes we can think that someone else's way must be our way, and so we don't make progress with this. If the Ten of Wands is also a card of spiritual progress, since it is moving through the subtle, it's like we don't necessarily progress along our way because we're going on a different way. And anything you take with you will be useful. So it's like it's not off of your way, but it might not be the key to you with the Hermit. It might not be the key to you unlocking the things that are for you to unlock, right? Like what you have to gain and unlock might not necessarily be the same as what someone else has to gain or unlock. And so that might be why, ooh, the star, that might be why it's like maybe you find limited success in something that someone is like really successful in, or why you feel like not, why you don't have as much resonance to someone else's truth, right? Let's just be mindful. Okay, Saturn and Pisces. Ooh, the Five of Cups. Oh gosh, okay. Oh, it's the Hanged Man. What I like about this Hanged Man in particular, it's very Odin on the Yggdrasil world tree. But what I like about this one is the crow that's offering the pentacle. The hangman is Pisces. Well, it's what, water or Neptune? Because it's water slash Neptune, it's become modernly Pisces. Pisces is modernly the high priestess, and there she is. I mean, a lot of the cards have a lot of associations. And then behind the high priestess again is that five of wands. So the five of wands is right behind all of this. The five of wands was right behind the four of wands, was right behind the whatever was at the bottom of the deck. I literally pulled it and just forgot. And now it's behind this high priestess. It individuated it. I already forgot what that card was. I can move on. I literally just talked about it. It seems like that's how easy it is for things to devolve into conflict. And if we look at the meeting of belief historically, the most notable, the most memorable, the most recorded are the ones that resulted in bloodshed. And on one hand, it speaks to the power. If we're talking about faith, it speaks to the depth and the power of someone's faith, of their belief, of their conviction that they would be so moved to do something like that. But also at the same time, it don't take some people a lot to do anything to other people. So anyway, it's like we don't necessarily have to, I don't want to say soil something that beautiful, but I guess it is to take note of, I guess. It's like if somebody didn't really believe what it is that they're doing, they wouldn't go to those lengths. But at the same time, it's not necessarily necessary. Um, Another thing I like about this, or another thing that's interesting, I guess, is that the crow is bringing it into the physical. The Ace of Pentacles was at the bottom of the deck when these three cards came out. Sun and Pisces had Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Saturn and Pisces is coming in and it's offering it, but it's going to require us to get down off of the tree and to get it from this raven. I don't know if the raven is going to give it to us or if the raven is just going to show it to us and then fly away. You know what I mean? But if the raven does fly away, it feels like it's going to lead us beyond the veil. Maybe the veil it's like it's something that is fraught with danger because it is the crossing of the material into the immaterial. So it's almost like the veil itself isn't necessarily dangerous, but an unscrupulous mind, question mark, would make it dangerous. Because it is so subtle, it's like anything and everything within the self, the veil would show. It's almost like the veil would pull it out. And so if it seems tricky or dangerous or whatever, it's like that's because there are things within the self that aren't resolved, or there are things within the self that are coming to the surface. It's like it's not the veil, it's not even a protective feature of the veil, it's not even necessarily a test, it's just it's the nature of the space. If the nature of the space is, or if the nature of a place is your heart's deepest desires come true. But a lot of people get to that space and then they end up living nightmares. It's like, it's not necessarily a test or whatever, it just goes to show the state of a person's heart. And I think sometimes without this hermit level, or with the Ten of Wands either, without the Nine of Swords, this and all of this, it reveals those things to us. So we get to know what it is that we actually believe. It's almost like, if you have faith that the divine will do this or the divine will do that, but when push comes to shove, when something presses on your reality, you're doom and gloom and this is never going to happen. What do you actually believe? And again, going back to what can be fervor in some, but that admiring a person's conviction and belief in their faith, that can also be this Five of Swords energy, where your faith, where your knowing, where your trust in the immaterial, in the subtle, in the spiritual, in the divine supersedes your experience of, or your experience of your reality, or what like the world is presenting you. When your faith is stronger, that can be Five of Swords. And maybe the person laying down in the bed, it's like, again, with this, like having all the pieces, but nearing the border between the sleep and the wake, like really instilling it in oneself. It's like none of these swords pierce her. And if in the connotation of swords being our ability for the mind to triumph over the material, it's like she has all of this information, she has all of this knowledge, but when things get too heavy, she crumbles. And so it's like this is the trigger. When she gets triggered, she can't use any of that information. She can't access any of that healing. She can't do anything that would get her to do any differently. And again, it just feels like it's preparation for us to like be in that space more fully, and to not just have like be lost in a world of darkness, because that's the clouded state of our hearts and of our minds and of our spirits. um, but yeah, it does seem like Saturn and Pisces, it's interesting. It feels like it's navigating in a new way. The hanged man thinks about things in a different way, has a different perspective, is the more spiritual in the world of the physical or whatever. But because the crow has the pentacle, and because he's going to have to get it, it feels like something about navigation is going to change. You can't just hang there anymore. It's almost like manifestation and the law of attraction and our spiritual knowing got us this far. It drew the pentacle this close, but it isn't necessarily going to put it in our hands. Another thing with this high priestess, I love that the triple goddess on her crown, the crescent moons, actually complete the crescent moons on the pillar. So there's a potential for this to be three full moons instead of it being waxing, waning, and crescent. But then how does that affect the archetype of the triple goddess and the archetype of femininity, where it's the mother, the maiden, and the crone? Before childbirthing, and after childbirthing. And in that way, it's almost like, can we allow our concept of what is divine feminine or what is femininity to evolve, or will we keep it limited in that way? Saturn and Pisces can also be, I guess, limitations that we place on the divine, that we place on spirit. Because when the world starts to move and when things start to shake, again, it's like we pull back into what is physical rather than going further into what is spiritual. And it brings to mind, it was like summer 2020, or was it even before that? It was just that, like, when the world goes dark, shine brighter. And the thing about the world, it's like when everything else gets dark, to shine brighter, really all you have to do is maintain your luminosity. You'll be brighter in comparison. But you can also increase in luminosity. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is interesting. I think there is a sort of throughput here of like, if you were to receive the answers to the questions that you're asking, like, would you even do anything with that information? Number one. It can also be number two, like, are you really ready to face the truth? Almost that you can't handle, like, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. I've never seen that movie. Just that little clip on what the Turner Classic Movies channel or whatever. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Can we handle the truth? Because I think sometimes too we can't. So we go for the lie, even though we know it's a lie. But we hope that it might have some truth to it because it'd be easier than doing the other thing. It's just like, for as gorgeous as this time can be, for as much progress as we have to make, it also feels like a lot of the problems that we have, like, there are solutions that are coming. And like, even if it's like energy or economy or food or whatever, it's like in the realm of the subtle, in the realm of the spiritual, the answers are coming. But our world, it seems to a lot of people, our world hasn't necessarily been a place. A lot of places in the world haven't been places that would necessarily welcome solutions, because when everyone is like not competing, or when everyone is like happy, then I don't know, it's almost like it's easier for certain things just thrive in chaos. They do. And when we're placed in chaotic situations again, it can be a lot easier for us to crumple or compromise or forget the things that we know because of what's happening in our worlds, what's happening in our lives. It keeps us more reactive and reactionary, or some like fear triggers us into being cautionary to prevent something, rather than sort of sticking to holding to the truths that we know. And it's like, in the absence of that chaos, it's a lot harder for us to sort of do that. It's a lot easier for us to hold on to what we know is true. But just because that hasn't been doesn't mean that it will never be. Especially if that's what you're like manifesting, right? It's like, how many, what was that, 4/4/2020, and so many days since then, like global meditation, this or whatever, that we're gonna manifest this or we're gonna manifest that for the collective. But then at the same time, it's almost like we leave the world no room to actually become the thing that we manifest. It's almost like if there's someone in our lives that antagonizes us, and we pray and we, hope and we wish, we go to the divine to make that relationship less tense or whatever, but then we don't allow that person. So like, let's say we pray for that and the divine has that person realize something, or maybe it just be the timing lines up. It's now time for them to see what they actually do and how they impact others, rather than to just be so focused on what happened to them. And so let's say that, they become better. Well, do we allow that person to be better to us, or do we continue to hold them as we've always held them? Would that not be the answer to our question, our query, our problem? Would that not be the divine's response? Okay, like, that person's actually going to be nice now. And you're going to be friends, and you never believe it, but, when you actually get to know them outside of everything that they were dealing with, just like you deal with stuff, and you might not always be your best self because of the stuff that you're dealing with, you'd actually get to see something about them. But like, we don't always have the capacity within ourselves to allow that person to sort of change, to allow our dynamic to change in that way, and so we don't receive the very thing that we're asking for. And maybe that's another thing, it's our capacity to receive as well. So I'm gonna leave these out. Ooh, the Two of Cups with that High Priestess, that is like the spiritual being made manifest in the material. But instead of it being materially led, it's now like spiritually led. And it being materially led is like, us, it's like utilizing spiritual muscle to respond to a physical stimulus. And so like, it's diluting the spiritual to match the material and to like resolve the material, rather than like strengthening the physical to push the material towards that. Libra, the material scale in a lot of our lives is heavier, so the spiritual gives way. It's about putting more weight on the spiritual side, so the physical gives way, so that those things do actually become manifest, right? Ooh, look at the moon. The other card of Pisces, but the moon. The moon is Cancer. No, the moon is the moon. Yeah, the moon is the moon. Um, or is the moon Pisces? The moon is Pisces. Girl, I don't know. I'm like the high priestess. The high priestess is the moon. The high priestess is the moon. The moon is Pisces. Thank you for correcting me. The high priestess is the moon. The moon is. The high priestess is the moon. The moon is Pisces. Cancer is the chariot. Water is the hanged man. Is Neptune. Is also more Pisces because of Neptune. So that was right. But the high priestess is the moon. What's the one thing that I guess like unifies all of this, or something, some common thread, whatever? I need to end this because it'll be time for us to go soon, I'm sure. Three of Swords. Three of Swords, Queen of Cups, Karma, which is judgment, the Ten of Cups, the Two of Cups, and the Three of Cups. Ten of Cups, Two of Cups, Three of Cups, Queen of Swords, like all of this. And like when the Three of Swords came out, it does, like, it felt like this healing that the divine actually wants to give us. It's like Earth being the place that we want it all to be. It's governments being the things that we need. It's companies and business people like prioritizing people rather than money. It's our neighbors being friendly and like actually caring about us. It's like every facet of life actually being what it is that we want. But us, again, it goes back to that capacity, us not allowing it to be so. So it's almost like there's this pain in the divine that is birthed when it can't soothe our pain. It's like the mother or the parent, because it's not just mothers and it's not just parents, it's the guardian, it's the caretaker. It's the caretaker who wants to do for those that they take care of, but they can't. Sometimes they don't allow it. Sometimes you just don't know what to do. Sometimes you just know that in life there is challenge and there is hardship, and even if you did everything that you could, there would still be some setback, some disappointment, something somewhere someday. And so you allow them to go through life and you allow them to learn, and you're there to help guide and when they really, really need you. But for the most part, it's like, you're not always going to be there. And even if you had the capacity to always be there, you wouldn't necessarily not want them to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Because there's something about watching the one that you care for grow and evolve and achieve and become the thing that they want it to be. It's like on their own merit or on their own 2 feet. You know what I mean? And then there's a peace. It's like, okay, they're going to be okay. I don't have to worry about something happening to me, because if anything happens to me, they'd be completely screwed. Because then at the same time, it's like, well, what if something is happening to you and you can't even prioritize yourself enough to give yourself the love and time and care and attention that you need because of how it might affect somebody else, because they are so dependent on you. But more than any of that, it was almost like do we have the capacity to receive the healing that we're asking for? The Queen of Cups, Karma, Ten of Cups, Two of Cups, Three of Cups, all of like, this is so anti Three of Swords energy. Like, this is us. It's almost like these are all of the things that we're asking for. Like the family, the partnership, the friendship. It's emotional satisfaction and fulfillment in literally every aspect and every area that we can be emotionally fulfilled. Ten of Cups, Two of Cups, Three of Cups. But it lies beyond judgment. I almost love this because with the crown of the triple goddess having the waxing moon mirroring the waning and the waning mirroring the waxing, it's like, can we allow all three of those moons to become full? And then we have these three. We have the mother, the maiden, and the crone here. I've never noticed that before. I see it now because the maiden looks younger. You can tell she's younger because she's smaller. I'm assuming she's younger because she's shorter than the other two. Okay, I'm sorry. But it's also this eclipse energy. I just did the Ten of Swords. And again, in that for the collective, it was gorgeous. But it was this question of like, can we even allow it to happen? And I think sometimes too, I don't know if it's like when we forsake the past, we, I don't want to say we lessen our glory. Like, I almost want to say we lessen our glory, but it's like if we only view the past as the negative things that we've been through, but it's not about comparison. Maybe it's like juxtaposition. It's like when we get where we're going, like that's where we came from. It's almost like it gives where we are significance because it separates us from where we had been. Almost like a mark of maturity, I guess, in a way. And it's not that we have to be like super egotistical, like, well, I've done this and I've done that and blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, it feels like it's important to remember for some reason. Because that's what came out in that one. But I guess it is like if we don't have the capability or the capacity to leave the past in the past without forgetting it or without forsaking it, then we should just do what we can, right? So, in that, there would be no judgment. I also love that it's karma in this deck instead of judgment. Karma makes it feel like it's based upon our efforts, it's based upon what we do and what we don't do. Judgment almost feels more, not arbitrary, but it feels more removed. It feels more someone else from the outside coming and looking at your life rather than karma being like the sum of our choices. When we make choices in the world, there is a consequence. And it's only because of, not only because, but modern life, it puts us in this like we don't want to accept consequence, or we don't realize that there are consequences for our actions, or we do this, we do that, we pay enough money, we know a guy or a girl or a person, and we get away with it, we get a slap on the wrist, we do it again, we get another slap. It's like we've become so separated from consequence that like the word consequence itself has a negative connotation rather than it just being like the effect. Consequence is the effect to everything that we cause. And when we can take ownership for those things, and when we turn that dynamic into like, it's like no different than going to the gym and working out. The consequence of working out is that you build muscle. You want to build muscle, you go to the gym and you work out. Like it's that same relationship that gets us everything that we want, but when we get something that we don't want because of our own actions, then we want to disrupt that. And it's like laws don't apply only when we want them to. Rules don't apply only when they're convenient. Like there would be no basis for anything. There would be no point to anything. And I guess there doesn't have to be a point, but it's like the very thing that is given to us to actually get what we want and to go where we're going, we throw away. Or it's like, we think that other people should bear the burden of like other people should bear our consequence. It's like, yeah, I did this, but you should have just did whatever. They should have just did this. They should have just did that. We don't even always necessarily allow other people to be people or to like be upset or whatever. It's like, yeah, I know I did this, but what did you do? If they don't take accountability, that's one thing, but if you don't either, ain't nothing gonna get done. The Hangman and the Five of Wands. This feels more like competition. Eight of Pentacles is at the bottom of the deck. This is an energy of diligence. When we're frustrated, when we're irritated, when we feel that we're in stagnation, it is easy for us to turn on each other or to do whatever. And maybe it's just like there may be some slow periods. There may be some times where it's almost like maybe the divine reveals something to us to let us know what we have to prepare for. And so the timing might not be what we want, but we can take advantage of like the space between when we receive the knowing and when it actually happens to prepare ourselves. I smell like burning leaves. Somebody barbecuing somewhere. Or maybe it's dragon fire. Somebody roasting. I don't want to leave it like that. I mean, also, too, maybe this is a little bit of a crab in the barrel mentality. It's like, the hangman sees the pinnacle and then tries to get it, but while the hangman is chasing the crow, it noticed that somebody else is chasing the same crow, and they're like, oh no, I gotta get the pinnacle before they get it. I spent more time on the tree, I deserve it. Or I know more, I'm more. Blah, 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 blah. And it's almost like if the divine gave the same vision to multiple people, can we be like big brain enough to think that maybe it's an opportunity for collaboration? Maybe it requires everyone that the divine gave that vision to make it a reality. Maybe you don't have soul ownership, or we don't have soul ownership over it. Can we cooperate instead of compete? Because under competition, it won't thrive. Under competition, a foundation might not even be set. Like, especially if it's something that's bigger than one person. Like, if you know that it's bigger than just you, why would you try to take sole ownership of something? It's easy to say ego. I don't like how easy it is for us to just be like, oh, it's ego or whatever. I don't know. It feels like there's a lot more to the ego. It feels like there's a whole lot more to a whole bunch of stuff than we think it is. But it's like, with humanity being humanity, with us being people, we don't allow not only do we not allow anything to be anything more, but it's like it's like sometimes it can be so hard for us to take accountability for stuff. It's like, maybe the ego isn't bad. Maybe you just don't deal with your stuff and you have all of this unresolved everything that you dump on your ego. And so now, like, when you act up or you act out, you're blaming this part of you, but like, who put it there in the first place? Who didn't handle it? Who didn't deal with it in the first place? And if you weren't in a position to handle it and deal with it and face it when it happened, well, like, when are you gonna be? How long will you continue to make enemies out of people and things that aren't even your enemy? It's all capacity. And with Saturn and Pisces, like, I feel like it's really bringing this gorgeous energy, but it ain't like we ain't still gonna have to work for it, or we ain't gonna still have to do something. Do you know how hard it is to create something? Like, for a dream to become reality, do you know how much energy that takes? And we don't want to contribute nothing. The will of the year in justice. So maybe it's a year of justice. I don't know. Again, if you can see me here, you can probably tell that I can't see you. So I can't read the chat. I can't see it. Final card, please. Maybe I can just, I don't know. I feel like I hear Rob in my head a little bit. I'm like, maybe I can just let a good reading be a good reading, but I feel like I would be remiss if I just like, yeah, all the energy's going to be great, and not also talk about the things that we might have to do or the things that we do that keep us from experiencing it. Like, am I souring something that doesn't need to be? But at the same time, at the end of the day, like, if you do what you do and if you're following your intuition, guidance, and whatever, then like none of that necessarily applies to you, and you get the gorgeous. Just keep up the good work. But sometimes, keep up the good work isn't like, oh, you've finished your work, you can stop working now. It means like keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to do more, but don't do any less. Not that there aren't breaks, not that there aren't times where we don't have to work as much. Two of Pentacles and the Five of Swords. This is all about balance. I'm going to read this as priorities again. The Two of Pentacles, and you can see him like pondering. He has a very ponderous expression. It's a countenance of wondering. 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 It's almost like too much is relative, right? If I make a dish and I like it, but it's too spicy for somebody else, it's relative. The five of like, what's doing too much, what is overthinking, what is overanalyzing. It's different for every person, for every situation, for every culmination of resolution. What's too much in one instance might be just enough in another, or it might not be nearly enough in another, right? Filling a bottle of water and filling the Grand Canyon is going to require vastly different amounts of water. And different isn't necessarily the amount of effort that you have to exert when it comes to water, because water flows freely. Water takes the shape of its container. So it's like it's not more taxing on water. Water doesn't have to change its properties to fill the container. It just does what it does. And so maybe it's this, like when it comes to working hard or when it comes to journeying and healing and stuff like that, it's almost this like Ten of Wands at the bottom of the deck again. It's almost this like, it's like if you go to the gym, you don't have to lift more weights to build more muscle. You just have to lift the same weight more. Or I can't. I feel like I can't find a metaphor that accurately describes what I'm trying to say. It's like we realize that it takes more water to fill a jug than it does a bottle, but the water itself doesn't have to do anything different. The water just has to keep doing what it's doing, but I guess it does it longer when it's filling the jug, depending upon the speed at which it's poured. And it's water, so it's like a lot of the forces are normal, meaning like it's not sheer thickening or sheer thinning like honey, right? If you want to pour a lot of honey quickly, you have to add a lot of pressure because it takes pressure for honey to flow. Or it's not like what's something sheer thinning? It's not something that's the opposite. I can't think of anything right now, but it's not something that's the opposite where it's like the more pressure. Yeah, honey is sheer thinning. The more pressure you put on it, the easier it flows. And it's not like quicksand where the more pressure you put on it, the stiffer it gets. It's just like, you pour it and it continues to pour. And so maybe that's that, like keep up the good work energy. Something about our nature has become purified, or something about our nature is complementary to accomplishing what it is that we want, if we allow ourselves enough time. I'm going to look before and after Temperance because that's interesting. And then I'm going to end this. What did Temperance come out with at the beginning? Oh, well, here's Temperance right here. So temperance is in between the Five of Pentacles and the Magician. I love the Five of Pentacles and the Magician. It feels like, on one hand, this could be someone that's like, I don't have the materials to make or create what I want, because the magician uses the tools at their disposal, and if you're using a tool, you have to have a material to shape, right? So it could be like this scarcity that prevents someone from doing the thing, but it feels like this is someone creating in a space that's been void of creation. Someone bringing life to a situation that hasn't seen it in a long time. This could be us revitalizing certain areas and aspects of our lives. And maybe we're the thing that's missing. Shout out to my journey buddy. Because the last time we talked, she was like, I've realized in so many different ways and so many different aspects, the thing that I've been missing this whole time was me. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't like anything outside of me. And again, it feels like that plays on that your nature is a match for whatever it is that you're doing. It just might require more time, but it feels like, I don't want to say it requires more time, because it doesn't have to. But again, it's like the properties of water doesn't change. Water doesn't have to behave any differently. And maybe with this temperance, there's this movement that's shifting us from that not enough materials, not enough resources, to that, well, let me do what I can. And then it's almost like once a seed is planted and tended to and grows, life itself will propagate life. There isn't anything more that you have to do. You might just have to plant the seed, honestly. It could be an environment that's perfect for, like, a forest to pop up. Like, it gets enough rain, it gets enough sun, it gets enough shine, but there just aren't any seeds in the ground for anything to grow. And maybe that's another thing with this Two of Pentacles, Five of Swords. It really feels like a Six of Pentacles. What is appropriate? What does it actually need? And maybe that was the Queen of Cups before karma, before judgment, but it's typically more so in the domain of the Queen of Pentacles. Like, the Queen of Pentacles is the one that intuitively knows what something needs to grow. A lot of us, we'll assume that we know what something needs, and so we'll give, and if nothing comes out of it, then, we go, oh, this or that or whatever. But maybe that's not what it needs. Right. And I feel like, because then I think about myself, because everything is about me, remember? Um, but it's like, I don't put myself in a position, I don't believe that I have a truth that is for everybody, or I can solve everyone's problems, or I know how to navigate or help people navigate their journeys. I don't believe I have the words to say or the know-how for everybody. And I don't force myself to. Like, you'll hear, like, sometimes if it is a little spicy, like, I'll apologize, but at the same time, I'm not going to change myself in any way to be somebody different or to be somebody else, because there are other people that are already doing that, right? And when it comes to viewership, like, it's about more than just numbers. It's like there are people on the other side. If someone else has a demeanor or an approach, a lifestyle, a history, or a viewpoint that is more suitable to getting you where you're going, why would I try to change to accommodate that when there's someone else who can do it better? Not only would it be me compromising my own integrity and authenticity, but it would be cheating you out of an experience to actually go out and find that person to get that thing, like, quality, rather than my attempt at it. You know what I mean? And so at the same time too, I almost forgot where I was going with that. But at the same time too, it's like, It's the yeah. Yeah, I need my AirPods. Well, that's the end of the video, folks. So after that, by the way, after the magician is the Four of Wands again. No more Five of Wands. That's exciting. So you ain't know I was out here, or did you know?
Huh?
Did you know I was out here?
That's why I said, Pastor, you need to go back in.
I mean, like doing this. Who?
No, live streaming, I ain't know.
Oh. All right. Bye. See y'all later. It's time to go. It was been an hour and 10 minutes. Oh my gosh.
When did you use the car?
I took Chino to the cemetery.